My name is Anna Dodgen, and I am doing my Nutrition Makeover Project presentation today for Rose States Nutrition with Professor Elizabeth Brown. Now, for this Nutrition Makeover Project, I did decide to do it over myself, mostly because I know I probably could use the help. I'm not gonna lie, when I got into the nitty gritty details of it, I was a little bit tempted at points to use like a false name for myself because it's a little embarrassing, as you're going to see, like where I kind of started. Earlier in the semester on our first nutrition project, I was doing better at like taking care of myself, and then the stress of school and now the holidays kind of came in, and I fell off the wagon back into some old default patterns that are not super ideal. So anyway, we're going to get into that and see what we can do to fix that. So yes, again, name is Anna Dodgen. I am 5 foot 4 inches tall, 155 pounds. The goals that I have for this particular makeover would be to gain muscle, lose weight, increase fruits and veggies, and eat more consistently. Those are my nutrition goals going into 2025. Also, I did note that a heart-healthy diet is preferred for prevention, as I am at an increased risk for cardiovascular disease based on a very early hysterectomy that I had. Okay, so here we go. Here's where it gets a little ugly. Here is the nutrition for that first day that I recorded. For breakfast, you can see that I had a cup of Highland Old Fashioned custard, which, while delicious, is obviously not the most nutritious choice in the world for breakfast, and it was actually in the 2 cups of coffee there, and that is what I consumed that morning. And then for lunch, and this was just kind of spread out all throughout the day, just as I passed through the kitchen, I had a cheese stick, 5 mini vanilla wafers with some peanut butter on them, and then a quarter of a Fairlife protein shake in another cup of coffee. And then for dinner that night, I had a bowl of zuppa toscana, which is a recipe from Olive Garden. It's delicious. I do recommend it. But unfortunately, the small amount of kale in that dish was literally the only vegetable that I consumed that day. And then I had 4 truffles dissolved in in milk for a hot chocolate that night, which again is not something I would traditionally indulge in, but being the holiday season, I have those things around, and again, stress, and it sounded good. So I did have that, but I point that out to say that is almost an additional 500 calories for that day that I would not have consumed normally throughout the rest of the year. So that's even more abysmal when you look at the calorie count for that day, especially given that I do work out several times a week. Clearly, that is not enough calories. Oh yes, and also 8 ounces of water spread throughout the day, mostly for taking like vitamins and such. I've always been really, really bad at drinking water. So the grand total here, as you can see, is 1,495 calories for the day. Carbohydrates is far too low, and fat was pretty high as far as like the overall. Obviously, that was way too much of the percentage of our pie chart here. And then my protein, obviously, again, also too low given the activities that I engage in. So we can see there's a lot of room for improvement here. So let's try that again. So for breakfast, I have, this is the ingredient breakdown for 2 bacon and Gouda egg bites. It's a recipe that my husband and I enjoy a lot, but that's the amounts for 2 of those. So 2 bacon, cheese egg bites, 2 cups of coffee, but black this time, 1 medium pear, and then a Oikos Greek yogurt with whole grain granola on top. For lunch, I have a strawberry smoothie with some vital proteins and some peanut butter, obviously milk for the liquid there, and then some whole grain oats in the smoothie as well. And then also a turkey and Swiss sandwich with lettuce, tomato, low-fat mayo on whole wheat bread. Now, in hindsight, I might flip those and put the strawberry smoothie maybe like 2.5 hours after lunch, so between lunch and dinner, to maintain that stabilized blood sugar, and just to kind of keep energy up throughout the day. That may have been the better way to do that, but either way, that's how I have my lunch breakdown here. And then for dinner, we have a pistachio pesto pasta with cherry tomatoes, which of course that's going to be, the pistachio pesto is made up of pistachios, olive oil, spinach, and basil. And then once we make that, we would toss in the cherry tomatoes and put that over whole wheat pasta. And then for a side, we have salad with a light Caesar dressing. Oh yes, also, last but not least, drum roll, 64 ounces of water each day would be my recommendation, not 8, obviously. I know the USDA's current recommendation is for 9 cups of water, which is 72 ounces, but I think when we factor in the water that will be brought in from the food sources, I think 64 ounces is still a-okay. So let's look at the overall breakdown now of my new meal plan. I think we can see that it's far more balanced and nutrient dense. So first of all, our protein. Our protein did increase from 54 grams to 131.7 grams, which is more than sufficient to account for the weightlifting activity. The carbohydrates increased by just over 100%, which offers far more adequate levels for replenishing the glycogen stores that are depleted with multiple workouts a week. The vitamins and minerals are all in a pretty solid range across the board, while vitamins A, B1, B2, B6, and C, along with the minerals, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, and zinc, all exceed 100% of their RDAs. Each one is still well below their established upper tolerable, the established tolerable upper limit where applicable. I know a couple of those don't have an upper limit, but for the ones that do, we're still well below that, so perfectly in a safe range. And then, of course, the excess in B and C vitamins are going to be excreted anyway, as those are water soluble, of course. And then I also wanted to point out the dietary fiber of this meal is 105%, which along with the 3.5 cup equivalent of vegetables, 2.5 cup equivalent of fruit, and then the inclusion of pistachios into the diet as well, all are in alignment with the American Heart Association's recommendations on prevention of cardiovascular disease. So I hope this is the kind of breakdown that you were looking for. This was such a great project. It was really eye-opening to me. I have mad respect for nutritionists. I did not realize how complicated it could be as I was building this plan and like adding things up and going over the percentages and the totals and this and that. I just kept coming back to like, wow, this is way more complicated than I would have imagined to like try to get it right in those levels. It was kind of like a giant jigsaw puzzle. So it was a fun challenge. It was good. But anyway, I just appreciate the opportunity and I thank you for listening.